Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Beathy. I'm the President and CEO at Grimes Chamber and Economic Development, and it is my pleasure to moderate this evening's event on behalf of Grimes Chamber and Economic Development. If you don't know what this organization is, we're a 501c6 nonprofit corporation that represents over 300 members in our membership, businesses, organizations, nonprofits, churches, everything across the spectrum in our local business community, from construction to retail. And there's a growing number of businesses, just like there's a growing number of people in this community. And we take that as a great responsibility to try and represent their interests as best we can. And so we look forward to have the opportunity to ask some questions of the most candidates that we've had running for city offices in at least the last 15 years. So thank you for being a part of this evening. I'm going to roll through a couple statements here before we get rolling. We'll be asking the candidates to introduce themselves and confirm the position they're seeking here shortly. First, however, we want to remind the voters that there may be any number of write-in candidates seeking these open seats. We don't know of any, but there may be some. We just limit the people that we invite to this forum to people that we know are officially registered. On Tuesday, November 2nd, Grimes voters will have the opportunity to vote for their representatives at the City of Grimes. This year, there are 6 registered candidates seeking 3 available positions for Grimes City Council, and there are 2 candidates vying for the office of mayor. All declared candidates are participating in this evening's forum. Thank you guys for showing up. We request that the candidates limit their responses to around 2 minutes or less. This will allow us to get hopefully some more questions gone through than we might otherwise. The format is not intended to be a debate. Rather, we're looking for candidates to regularly address one another, but rather an opportunity to answer questions that Grimes Chamber and Economic Development feel are important to our membership. Candidates are welcome to address issues that do not come up in presented questions during opening or closing remarks, and we will do our best to keep the event to roughly 1.5 hours. Although sometimes, as you know, politics can get a little long-winded. We can't promise anything. The audience will be invited to submit written questions, if you didn't know that, if you didn't check in there at the back of the room, and they will be sorted by representatives of our organization to eliminate similar or duplicate or inappropriate questions. These will be offered to the candidates near the end of the forum as time allows. So I think we talked beforehand, and we'd like to, if you're going to submit a question, if you can do that before 6 o'clock, that will allow our volunteers to kind of have the proper amount of time to go through those questions. I want to say a few thank yous before we get rolling. First of all, I think I've already thanked the candidates, but if not, thank you for being here. It takes a certain amount of courage to get up and put yourself out there as a candidate in today's day and age, and so we really appreciate it. Good leadership is important in any community, and Grimes is certainly no different. I'd like to thank the City of Grimes for allowing us to use this space here in the banquet hall at the Grimes Community Complex. It's a great location for us to do these events, and we hope that it works out well. Thank you to the Polk County Sheriff's Department for having a presence here this evening. We'd like to thank Crossroads Community Church for the use of some of their equipment here, and this is a space that they meet in regularly for their church services too. And then we'd like to thank BCP Live, who's helping us with recording of the event tonight and some of the sound stuff that we have going on. And then last but not least, we'd like to thank our members. You in the audience will see our members plastered all over just about any community event that you attend in this town through sponsorships or through their volunteerism. Businesses really help define a community, and it's no different here in our fine community of Grimes. We have some of the best businesses around, in my opinion, and a growing number. So you guys ready to get going? All right, so we are just going to start. We're going to go for the audience. We're going to go left to right up here and ask one question at a time. We're going to start with opening remarks. And so, Nick, if you could get us started, let us know who you are and however you want to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Brian. Everybody hear this okay? All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited and honored and privileged to be on the stage with these folks. And I am running for City Council. My name is Nick Dara. I've been in Grimes for 8 years now with our family, my wife and 4 children. Been active and involved within business and engaged in church and community aspects from that standpoint. So, really, I see this community at a crossroads of extraordinary growth and opportunities and challenges. So with respect to that, I think it's a wonderful time to get involved in the community, and that's really what I'm here to do, is get involved and serve the community in this aspect for City Council, and hear people's concerns and what they feel is important to them, and offer a voice as well for that. So really excited to be a part of this, and thank you so much for being here, everybody. This is fantastic.
Good evening, my name is Jennifer Parker, and I have lived in Grimes for 11 years. I can hardly believe that, and we've seen a lot of change over those years. And I have a family, I have a husband, and 2 kids who've grown up here in Grimes and call Grimes home. And I remember, I think it was you who wrote an article many moons ago about all of us who aren't from Grimes. Like, whenever I've met anybody, we're like, where are you from? And hardly anybody is from Grimes. And my kids are going to say they're from Grimes. And so that's why I'm here, because we got a lot of generations that are going to come behind us. And I am so excited to be a part of this community and create that future.
Hello, I'm David Gish. I'm one of your current city council members and running for re-election. I married and have 2 boys, and when we moved here, my oldest was about 8 months old, and so he was pretty fresh, and so he too and my youngest, they're going to grow up and Grimes is going to be their home, and we're very proud of that. And we also joke with our children that our house is where we're going to die in, and we're going to live here forever. We're going to put that stair lift in and everything. So, we're invested in this community. I like this community a lot. Involved in the church, involved in Boy Scouts, and I just wanted to see it continue to grow, and grow in a smart and efficient way. Try to get those amenities that people keep talking about, but be sympathetic to other concerns too. Like, I know people talk about taxes and whatnot. And so just try to do the best we can as a city, as a council member, to just try to do the best we can to meet the needs of our entire community.
Thank you. I'm Scott Mickelson. I'm currently serving as your mayor, and I'm running for re-election. And first I want to thank Grimes Chamber and the city for holding this event. Thanks to all the candidates, because it does, as Brian, as you noted, it takes courage to stand out. And so, and most importantly, thank you for coming tonight. This is a great turnout. A little bit about myself. I grew up in Iowa, in a small farming community of about 1,000 people. That's a lot, like many of the people that live here. And we've lived here for the last 15 years. We've called it home. My wife and I, Amber, who's here tonight, we have 4 kids. They all go to DCG schools. I've got 1 in the high school, I've got 2 in the middle school, and 1 in the elementary. At least most days when I check, I think that's where they are. So we love this community. We've called it home, and we've made it home. We've been involved in a lot of things. We're members of the local church here. My wife teaches youth group. She's part of the DCG Foundation as a board member. She volunteers at the Grimes Storehouse. I've coached a lot of different sports, basketball, football, baseball, participated in the DCG Park and Rec program, or the Grimes Park and Rec program. And in short, we've experienced the growth with you guys, but we also, and we know the challenges, but we also know the strength of this community, and it's the people, it's the families, it's the school system, and it's your civic organizations that you have here, like GVSS, Grimes Storehouse, all those great organizations. And that, I ran 4 years ago to reduce taxes, invest in infrastructure, and increase quality of life amenities, and do it while continuing to have our community feel. And it's the fabric of our community that I just talked about. That's what makes that possible. So I want to serve as your mayor again. We've made a ton of progress, but we got more work to do. Thank you.
My name is Alan May, and I'm also a candidate for mayor. Just a little bit about myself from that standpoint. I have a bachelor's degree in urban planning, so know the requirements that you need to plan the community. As a background, I had actually been in Des Moines as a planning administrator for about a decade, so you might have seen some of those projects like 801 Grand, Principal Park, the Sculpture Park, thousands of subdivision lots. So I know how to do it and why you do it and where to get it done and do it right. From a personal standpoint, married, we have 2 children and 6 grandchildren, so have that connection as well from that basis. I've been involved in the scouting program, have been part of the girls soccer program, grown up from those things, being the church board and the deacon, and also worked with volunteer meals on wheels, so being able to help that and work that program as well. I think some of the things that I would take a look at is, first of all, that it's no accident that you're here tonight because you care about Grimes just as I do. I think the real part of that is to know that from a growth standpoint, Grimes has a great potential to be one of the greatest cities in Iowa, but it has to be done right. And just my observation, having been here this time, there are things that could change that would make a better, suitable relationship for that, and those are some things that I'd like to bring forth. I think from that standpoint, my priorities are streets, sewers, water, and public safety. I think everything else that we do is great, but we have to do the basic things first, and if we don't do those right, the city's not going to grow right either. So with that, I would just close and say that I have the knowledge and with citizen collaboration to be able to get the job done, and would appreciate your vote. Thanks very much.
My name is Ryan Berger, and my family has lived in Grimes for 20 years now. Back when we moved here, there was, I think, 4,000 people in town. Where are we at? 16, 17,000 now? We moved here because we wanted a small town that's close to amenities. I grew up in West Des Moines. My wife grew up in Monticello, a town of about 4,000 people in eastern Iowa. My wife and I have had 5 kids graduated from Dallas Center Grimes, including my daughter who's out there and doesn't want me to call attention to her. So you know we're there. I was self-employed for around 30 years until I made a move into teaching. I realized I wanted to influence the next generation of business leaders. Because I'd run a business for all those years, I figured I could teach it pretty well, and I've done a darn good job. I teach up in Perry. My mission is to continue to lower taxes for all of you, and we've done that the last 3 years. First time I think it had been done since, what, the 1990s or so? 2008? Okay, it wasn't quite as far as I thought back. We've done good. Last 3 years in a row, and we can continue to lower taxes while still getting all those amenities that we all want. The library, the splash pad, the fire station, all kinds of things like that. We can do that without property taxes going up, and I believe we can take them down like we've done the last 3 years. My connection with improving my hometown of Grimes started nearly 20 years ago. I got involved in some committees. I've been involved in all kinds of different organizations. I see a lot of people out there I know from crossing paths on those, and I think that's the great part about it, is that we get to know who each other are. From what I've accomplished in my term on City Council, my voting for lower taxes every time, constantly working for other cool things for Grimes, I believe I'm one of the best candidates for election coming up on November 2nd. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Joe Herman. I thought we were just supposed to introduce ourselves, but I guess I'll go on like everybody else. 2 minutes is a lot of time. My name's Joe Herman. I am married. I have 5 kids. Beautiful wife, Laurie. 5 kids, ages 30 down to 5 years old. So I've got them in all schools, one that's away. You know, I came to Grimes. I've been here almost 6 years. I came to Grimes. We decided to pick Grimes because of the small town feel. You know, I'm all for growth, but I'm also a firm believer that, you know, we got to keep a few of the small town things here in Grimes. Growth is obviously infrastructure, cost, and so on, and I personally think there's a lot of things that need to be a bigger priority as opposed of, you know, instead of our wants, let's concentrate on our needs more. So, like I said, I'm a firm believer of a small town feel, but I do support the growth responsibly. So that's me.
Hi, my name is Laurie De Phillips. While I have not lived in Grimes my entire life, I am not new to the area. My family, I'm 3rd generation Des Moines area here. My family has been in the Des Moines area for a long time. Italians, if anyone knows any Italians around. So I came here, when I moved here, I came from the faraway town of Johnston. So I'm quite familiar. I actually work in Johnston. I work for a small business there. We are employee owned. So that's near and dear to my heart, is really supporting and making space for small businesses. I made the decision to run pretty early on this year because I wanted to really give myself time to learn about all of the things that I needed to know, to give myself time to talk to the city staff, the current council, as many residents as possible. And I have had amazing conversations with people. If nothing else comes from that, I'm so excited to have met more people, to learn more about our great community here. I am so happy that I have chosen Grimes as my home. Much like other people, I really like the small town feel of it, and I would love to see that stay, or that community feel stay, while we still grow. And we can have, I believe we can have both. I started attending council meetings pretty early on. I have the utmost respect for the current council. I think that it takes a lot of work and a lot of dedication. And I have some ideas for the city, but I know that this is an elected position and I want to represent the people. And so I want to talk to the people so that I can accurately represent what everybody's looking for. I believe in communication, accountability, and passion, and I hope that I can show you that I have these things. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys. You made it through round one. Congratulations. Hey, I want to pause for just a second to do a couple things I should have done out of the gate. First of all, if you have one of these with you, please silence it, that you don't get a phone call in the middle of the forum and disrupt it. And I'd like to call out a couple people in the back of the room, or one in the front here. Madison, raise your hand, is doing our timing. She's very important to this process. Thank you, Madison. And then in the back of the room, Kayla Bruns. She helped with the sign-in table back there. And then my board chair, Ben Butsky at Butsky Birch Construction and Inspiring Dance, is here too. In case I pass out, he takes over on this forum job. I don't know if I told him that or not. So as I look at some of the questions that we prepared for, I think some of you may have answered the next question, but I'm gonna give you an opportunity to expand if you want to. You don't have to, because time is of the essence. But Jennifer, I'll start with you. What is your motivation for seeking or retaining for the other incumbents the office in question?
Yeah, I'm trying to answer your questions, so I did not answer this in my intro. You know, I am running for office. I've always been involved in leadership in my life in some capacity, and I let some things go less than a year ago, some significant sort of responsibilities, and I do believe sort of when the learner is ready, the teacher appears, and I was approached like, would you ever consider running for city council? And I said, no way. That is not my jam. I'm not political. But I am a resident of Grimes, and I love my neighbors, and I do care about the city, and I love org charts. My husband loves Excel spreadsheets, and I love org charts. I like to know, how are the people working together, and what are they doing, and how does our city function, and how are they doing, and the people. So this has been so much fun for me to meet so many people from Grimes New. But also, I feel like at this juncture, this is the leadership seat that's been presented, and I feel like this is my opportunity to stretch and grow and learn and serve and lead. And so that is why I'm here.
All right. I forgot to mention earlier, I think I have on good authority that all the other candidates had a conspiracy to have this event on this night when, like, my allergies were really peaking. So if I sound a little hoarse and whatnot, I apologize. But in seriousness, though, my motivations for seeking the office are very similar to when I started 4 years ago. I felt we had a lot of room for improvement as a city in terms of how we do things professionally. And I also felt there were a lot of wants and needs that needed to be addressed. We have done a lot of work on the professionalism side of things for the city. There have been a lot of hires, a lot of changeover, and that's not always good and exciting, but in this case, I think it's greatly benefited our city. And with those key people in place now, we can now start tackling those wants and needs because we have really good confidence in our city staff that have all the expertise in those areas to give us the information to make those best decisions possible as we try to tackle those things. So those are kind of two of my motivations. And a third motivation that's kind of new is I've heard a lot about affordable housing in our city. And so I'm pretty passionate about that, and that's a new motivation this term. And when I say affordable housing, that has a lot of meanings there. So that's things like I've talked to, I deliver communion to the homebound on the weekends for my church, and so I've talked to some of those older retirees, and so those people finding places. One of the talking events I had this weekend, I was talking to some people who want to downsize, but they question, can I downsize in Grimes? I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I can afford it. And other people too moving to the community and just with home prices and stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. I touched on many of my motivations in the opening statement, but I'll say this. We had lived here long enough, and I'd grown up in a small community, and there's so many things that we loved about living here, and we also felt like, hey, we're at a crossroads and we can make a positive difference. And the things that I heard then and I hear now are a lot of the same things. Residents want to have the ability to have good infrastructure in a proactive manner. And that gets to what David's talking about with the professional staff that we've added. And they want to have quality of life amenities. They don't want it to be all or nothing. And that's possible. And that comes with managing the growth we have and having the good commercial growth. We've got some great opportunities. We're in a really envious position in the metro. And then cutting property taxes. As Councilmember Berger, brought up, we cut property taxes for the first time in 10 years. And that hadn't been, more than a decade, since 2008. We've done it 3 years in a row. And so we can manage these things. And so it was really a motivation that we love this place. We see the opportunity, and we said, hey, we're at a crossroads, we can get involved in this, and that's what we've been doing. We've invested $20 million in roads and traffic improvements. We've been solving your wastewater issue. It's gonna get rid of that smell. We're really close, about 1.5 years away. It can't happen fast enough. I share that with you, for sure. But we're answering these problems we have, and we're doing it in the right way with a long-term strategic vision. And then we're fostering the civic organizations and the way that the city can support them, like GVSS, our schools, our school district, all of the community organizations that make this community a community. And so I'm running again to keep working on those issues.
Thank you. I'd just like to add a couple things that I think are very important from the standpoint. As being a professional urban planner, I think some of the things that the city needs to address are what's called smart planning process. And this has really been identified from one thing that I've seen just in our neighborhood. Within our neighborhood, I live in the northwest side by Northwest 8th, and from Brookside, there was a crosswalk area that was identified and built when the street was put in 2015. There was no crosswalk sign identification for safety of people to cross that, for kids or people to ride their bikes. That crosswalk sign is there today because I went to council last meeting and said it needs to be done. It needed to be done a long time ago, but it wasn't. So we talk about the sewer issues that the mayor currently brings up, and those issues have been around for a decade, but nothing's been done for it. And now the time has come that it really needs to be done. It should have been done 5, 6, 7 years ago. The planning in detail that I found out about it does not identify really what has been done and currently needs to be done and get done correctly. The consideration for that is it's going to be probably at least a $20 million project, but the identification for coming forward with that budget from the engineer responsible for that is one that's not going to be known to the general public probably for another 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And I think there's consideration for those things that the information has not been brought forth properly, and I'm concerned that that's what the problem is, that we see a lack of transparency, and that needs to be corrected so we get things done correctly. Thank you.
I'll keep mine very short because I covered stuff pretty well before. Overall, I want to continue the great vibe that we have in Grimes, that I moved here for. With 4 more years, we can do some more of the great things. I didn't get to know the mayor or David until we were already serving together. Just because I was in a different part of town. I got to know them along with our other people on city council. Jill Altringer, who's retiring from council after serving a ton of years. We did some great things, but we need 4 more years to get it going even further so that the tradition can continue and we have the right type of management that will just build upon itself and continue to improve. Thank you.
Thanks. My motivation is mainly just being involved, okay? I did 30 years in the military, retired, came here to Grimes. I've worked, lived, and slept around many crazy places in this world. I've been involved in many, many communities. I've learned to adapt. We've learned to work together. Easy to work with, believe it or not, no matter what you've heard. I'm easy to work with. So just being involved is my motivation to be the voice for the people, identify things that I think need to be more transparent. That comes back into transparency. And just make sure we're doing the right thing, responsible spending, stuff like that. So I don't knock anything that the city's done. This is a great city. Grimes, no matter how you look at it, any views you have, Grimes is a great city. I don't knock anything that's done. I just have a few problems with the way it was done. Maybe the prioritizing of things wasn't prioritized the way it should have been. The infrastructure I know is being built, but there's a lot of things that I feel myself that have motivated me to speak up that should have been planned in advance. So my motivation is to go ahead and be the voice of the people, make sure that the taxpayers are getting what they're paying the taxes for.
So I kind of touched on a little bit before that my main motivation to want to run was that I see all this growth, all of these new people coming in, and while that's fantastic, I think a lot of us have said we don't want to lose our identity and our character as a small community. We want to keep that community feel. So that was my initial driver into this, and as I started to kind of go down the path and learn more and more, I really got passionate about some of the priorities, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Public safety is a huge one for me. Some of the prioritization of things that have been done as well. Again, I think that's where maybe I would have done it differently, but at the end of the day, this position is elected by people to be the voice of the community. And so I wanted to be heard, I wanted to be represented, and I want to then be representative of the voices of all of you. And so I would like to hear from everybody and make sure that not only are we coming with our passions to this role, but we're listening to the voice of the community, and we really are representing the people that elect us.
Thank you. Okay, Nick, I know you still got to go yet on this second round, but I just looked at the clock and we want questions submitted by 6 o'clock. So if you have a question you'd like to submit, please go drop it in the bowl at the back of the room, and we'll continue now. Nick?
Awesome. I think from a motivational standpoint, it's not too different from everybody. Just serve the community has been a driver. Obviously, you know, having a young family in this spot, being active and involved and hearing people has been a blessing to me so far, being able to walk around and shake some hands and get to meet people that I haven't met yet and hear some of the concerns. Grimes is great, there's no doubt about it. It's amazing, and the folks that have been involved that we've been fortunate enough to have in place have done a fantastic job. So really just to continue that, continue to make thoughtful decisions about how we grow and what that looks like, and doing things smartly. And keeping this a great place that's going to attract great people, great business, and to thrive for years and years to come. So really the motivation is pretty simple. It's just keep Grimes awesome. So.
That might be our new slogan around here, keep Grimes awesome. So I did hear a lot of you suggest that we are a good community, and I'm glad to hear that, because that's something I pronounce every day at Grimes Chamber and Economic Development, is that we're a good community. Certainly, there's always challenges, and any community keep it good. So Thank you for your feedback so far. Let's move on to the next question. David, this will be yours. And some of you are really getting ahead of the game a little bit because I feel like some of you might have addressed this in part two, but what do you feel is the most pressing challenge which the city can influence for the community of Grimes, Iowa today?
Yeah, I think the most pressing challenge is just getting it all done. There's so many, like I was mentioning earlier, wants and needs and desires out there, and there's only so much money, and how do you get it all done? And how do you get it all done with the money when you also have people who want lower taxes on top of that? And that's a real difficult thing to do. I've been writing a blog and blogging about some of these issues, and I encourage you to read that. And one of those things is I'm willing to compromise. I hear what people say, and so I'm okay. Let's cut taxes. But if we want all these things, you have to pay for them. And so one of the things I keep pushing and talking about, and I think sometimes my colleagues get sick of hearing me, but all those big major projects come out of what we call the debt service levy. And so I keep proposing, fine, we can cut. So let's say the city says we can cut 10 cents. Well, let's cut 5 and put 5 more in this bucket so we can get more projects done, right? And so I want to strike that balance and try to do all those things and find a balance in doing all those things. So Scott kind of alluded to this, and I think the current council is on board. It's not all or nothing in this or all or nothing in that. And so the challenge, though, is that balance. And so I want to just continue to work really hard on that balance for the citizens.
I would say the most pressing challenge we face is infrastructure, and that just comes with, great growth. So there's good and there's bad to it. I think the city can have a very positive influence, though, on infrastructure, and we're talking roads, water, sewer, all the things we're talking about, public safety, excuse me. One of the things, and perhaps I think one of the most important, because you got to be proactive about this and you got to do it right. 4 years ago, we didn't have any city staff doing this professionally. We have a development services director who's highly trained in this. We have a city engineer. We have a city planner. None of those existed before. And these are, it's really a credit to our city, and it's just one of those things you don't know about. But it's one of the assets that I hear from residents, I hear from developers, and I hear from other cities. And so that allows us to start to be proactive. And then, so you got to invest in that. Now we've got the institutional knowledge to do it, and we've been doing it, and we're doing it right. And now you got to invest dollars in it. And so that's what David's talking about. And we've been doing that. We've invested $20 million in roads, 26 in our water improvements, many of which will come online this next month, and then wastewater. We started meeting on wastewater in 2018. It was actually very early on. We had discussions about it, and then 2018 pretty much on. We're joining what they call the Wastewater Reclamation Authority, and that will essentially pipe our wastewater out of Grimes for good. It's a permanent solution. That agreement was approved in 2020, and it becomes effective next year. So we're there. We have about done it there. But I think those are just pressing challenges we all feel, and I think we'd all agree on. And then the other thing that we just always strive to do is you want to keep the community feel, and so you've got to have city and elected officials that support those organizations.
Relative to the information about the WRA, it's a wastewater reclamation agency, and it's established in the entire metro area. All cities have participated in that except the city of Grimes. Grimes chose to not participate in it many years ago because they thought they were going to keep their own sewer system. That, however, did not work out well. I have contacted the DNR, and they had provided information to me to say that their notes, clear back as a letter to the mayor in June of 2016, says that the wastewater treatment facility is significantly overloaded. The organic capacity of BODs accredited to 20 of 32 months since June of 2016. What that simply says is the sewer system isn't working. It hasn't been working for a number of years, and the city has known that all the time. But they had to make the decision whether they wanted to join the WRA. Since they have now made that decision, and it will be effective next summer, I think that's a good point. But the difference identified in that is that in the letter that had been written from the city administrator to the WRA, it said that they were looking for a connection, or in other words, a completion, by either July of 2020 or July of 2021. And they also included then the application fee to the WRA of $67,500. I have a copy of that check here. I also have information from the WRA that simply says that Grimes will pay $70 million over the next 30 years to work with the WRA to get their system right. When you think about it at an annual cost, that's not a lot, but it's something that really should have been a cost savings for the city a long time ago. And why it wasn't addressed, I have no idea, because the city did have consultants to do planning, economic development, and engineering before. But apparently there was not a listening to what they needed to be done. Thanks.
Quick note on that, by the way. Mayor Tom Armstrong was the one that received that letter before he came in there. But at the same time, it's something we've gotten on very quickly. When I moved to town, the wastewater treatment area was way the heck out. Bobby Joe, remember 20 years ago, that was the edge of nothing out there. It was a dirt road to get to it. So, but yes, it's something that we're on. It's something that needs to be addressed. We went through a very tough time when we first came in office. We had just lost the city administrator due to some other issues. We had a new mayor. We had two new people in on the board at the time. Doesn't excuse it, but we were dealing with a lot of stuff in that first 6 months. And when we found out more about this, when it was addressed by us, we moved very quickly. So more to address what I want to cover on things. Like David was talking about, lowering taxes is very important that people, it's on your minds. And we continue to lower the taxes while providing other services. The reason why we can do that is because we are growing. The budget for the city will continue to grow, even if we keep on lowering taxes. I really think we can get down to, I think it's Ankeny, is at $10 per thousand. I think we can get down in that area just because of the growth. And then we can continue to do stuff like the fire station. We've already started to invest some time and money into the trails, the library, all the different things we're doing. So again, just looking for more time to work on this stuff. I want to stay involved. I'm going to stay involved whether I'm elected or not. You're going to see me around.
I think pretty much, with the exception of hearing from Laurie, I think we're all right on the same page as infrastructure being a serious need here. My only question now would be, how do we prioritize it? Okay? We need to prioritize it the right way. We've grown so fast, so much. The traffic is outrageous. Never thought it was going to be that way. We just need to plan. We need to know what streets we're going to widen, what streets we're going to fix. You know, a lot of this stuff, like you said, takes money. It takes money. We always talk about money. We need to prioritize and think twice before maybe building so much to keep adding on to what our problems are right now. So again, infrastructure is huge. We need to prioritize how we're going to handle it. And you know, I hate to say it, but not to say that excuses are being made, but somebody needs to be held accountable for the poor planning, in my opinion, that's happened for this. We knew we were going to grow. We knew it, right? It's in the comprehensive plan where we're going to be, this. We just need to prioritize our infrastructure and make it easier for all of us here at Grimes.
So I think one of the most pressing issues that we are facing as a community is the demands on our public safety. We have a really nice contract with Polk County Sheriff. They are committed to growing as we grow. One of the areas that I think that we really need to work on is our fire department. So in the past year, we've had around 500 calls. As we can all imagine, that's only going to increase as we increase our population here. So we need to be staffing proactively and not reactively. That can become difficult when all of the metro areas are also growing. So the pool of candidates gets smaller. We need to stay competitive with wages, with benefits, with schedules, And so in order to do that, we need to put some support to our fire department, work with the City of Johnston. For those of you who may not be aware, we do have a contract with the City of Johnston with our fire department, making that a longer-term contract, potentially making it a full contract that doesn't have an end date. Better decisions can be made at that point. So really looking at the support that we need to give the tools to our fire department, allow them to staff appropriately, to be proactive, and just showing up, having the conversations that we need to have with the City of Johnston, with the fire department, and finding out the best path forward. There's a study that was recently done by a third party that has collected data that they're going to be giving to both cities as well as to the fire department with recommendations. I hope that we as a city come together with the City of Johnston as well and make the recommendations that are necessary so that we can staff appropriately, so that we can get the resources that we need.
I think for me, one of the most pressing challenges, again, I'll echo the property taxes, continuing the great work that they've done with reducing property taxes and taking advantage of the great growth and the fantastic growth that we're going to continue to see both on the public and the private side. So that can be easily accomplished. Having amenities that cater to all seasons of life for every member of our community, you know, from very young to young families, all the way through middle age and above and beyond. So that way, as people do decide to downsize or have families that grow up, they don't have to make the decision to leave the community of Grimes. They're gonna have amenities in this town that can allow them to stay here and thrive here and interact with other generations that will be brought up. So there's some wonderful things coming online with respect to the library that we can take advantage of to get everybody interacting with one another and make this a community that supports all generations in every season of life. And another big part of that would be having housing opportunities for all seasons of life in our community. As people graduate from college and get their first apartment or buy their first starter home or get raises and work their way up in their work and get bigger homes, and then have downsizing and retirement in those types of homes as well. So just taking care of all seasons and taking care of everybody with respect to that type of thing. Those are the challenges that I see that we can take advantage of and as a city affect.
I think for me, I am a person who often has driven around my community for the past 11 years and thought, I wonder why they did that. Or I wonder how that happened, or why that decision was made, or why those lots are that size. And so one of the things that has struck me, just yesterday I met with a couple of city leaders and we had a great discussion about just recently, 3 years ago, was the first time the city employees had job descriptions. So if you've worked in any level of leadership in any kind of organization, that tells you the past 3 years there's been significant changes for our city. And the way things were done 10 years ago, if I could predict to you for my children what they will be doing in 10 years, I would love it. But you know what? I've got direction and planning in mind for my family. And I think our biggest challenge is to foster this growth the very best we can and to direct it. So the planning and the city and the council really coming together and working, because if we don't direct it, it will get directed for us, won't it? We've had that. We've been there. It was outsourced. Our city planning was outsourced years ago. And so many things are being brought back into the city so that we have leadership and management. Because guess what? We're good at it. We've got great city leadership, and we're going to have a great city council to take us into that future. But if we don't direct that, I think that's a huge challenge for us. If we don't sort of take ownership for that and don't delegate that out, we're going to, even if it's going to change, right? The plans can change, but we have foresight, insight, and we're doing our best to really create those long-term vision and those long-term plans.
All right, well, thank you guys for another question. I'm going to move down the list to this, so listen closely here. Grimes residents, that's you out there, for years have expressed an interest in more service, retail, and food-oriented businesses in the community. One of the biggest challenges facing most businesses today, regardless of industry, I might add, is the ability to attract and retain the workforce necessary to maintain or grow their operations. From a policy perspective, what can the City of Grimes do to support our community's businesses? And Scott, I think you get first dibs on this.
So this is an interesting question. It's obviously one our country's facing, on a much larger level than just the city. But it doesn't mean there's not things we can do to help it. And ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to help businesses attract a good workforce, an engaged workforce to this community. And so you want them to choose to live in Grimes. And that's not, I don't think we have one silver bullet. It's everything we talked about. It's having a reasonable cost of living, property taxes, water, some of these other things that we've been talking about, so that they say, yeah, it's reasonable cost of living to be here. You want to have amenities, because most of the time when I talk to businesses, the workforces that they're recruiting, they want to be able to live somewhere, and they want to be able to stay there and play there, so to speak, and have entertainment options. And so that's part of it. That's why it's important. And then you just have to keep working on infrastructure like we've been doing, because that's obviously important to the businesses. And there's, I think, a couple other things the city can do. You want a city and elected officials to encourage housing for all different, to use the term that Nick used, seasons of life or stages of life. That's absolutely important. And you want to continue to encourage that. And then another one that I think often gets missed is people choose to live in Grimes for the great schools. So you've got to, we did not have a strong partnership with the school district, with DCG 4 years ago. We've got a very strong one today. And we helped partner on Oakview Middle School. We're working on Northridge right now and some infrastructure there. And so you got to continue to foster that relationship. So I think those are all things that the city can do to, support all the businesses that we have all over the community.
Thank you. Alan, workforce?
I think some of the things that you need to look at are not only what is here in Grimes and what will be coming, but also what are regional attributes that you see. Because it's not everybody that's going to have a AAA ballpark. There's one downtown. I signed off on getting that approved. The reason for that is because that provides for amenities for the entire metro area. Those are things that, I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen in the city of Grimes. But you're a part of the metro area. We have a great transportation system that allows you to link to go down to those facilities. If you went down to Court Avenue and you sat at a sidewalk cafe, I approved the regulations to get those things done. So those are things that I have knowledge of, that I have the skills and the abilities to do and to lead. If you take a look over just right out our own front door right here at the Governor's District, we have a nice lighting scheme. We have a fantastic landscaping scheme, although I think on the area just to the north, they took out some of the landscaping earlier this year, which was not a very good idea. But if you take a look at it, we have the banners that are able to go on those lights. But where are they? There's no banners that say this is an event going on. We have the Fall Festival going on. These are things that are happening in this district, for example. Those are things that bring people to shop here and likewise come to the entire area. If you take a look, for example, at the Hy-Vee, sure, we had a lot of new events go there, and that's great because they want to market themselves as well. It's curious from the standpoint just of my own personal knowledge. My daughter works at corporate Hy-Vee. My son works at corporate Coastal, so I think those are pieces that you need to realize you have a greater influence of other people who are not only part of your family long-term, but extended family within that area as well. Thanks.
We need to have Grimes be a very affordable place. There's all kinds of levels of incomes in the city. And one place we've had trouble with, I can simply explain to you by saying, what have you experienced when trying to go to Pizza Hut, Dollar Tree, or Fortune Garden recently? They're having to shut down their hours. They're having to have tighter times that they're open. If I remember correctly, Dollar Tree's not even open on Sundays anymore, and they close at 6 o'clock now. And that store just opened up. There's a staffing problem. We need to be attracting people that are willing to work for $15 an hour to $20 an hour or something like that, or even $12 an hour. And we need to provide housing that's affordable on that level. A $700 or $800, maybe $900 apartment that they can rent. We have an issue there that we need to help the local businesses continue to grow, like what economic development has done for the city. So we need to continue to support groups like who brought us all here today. And to put out a good point to it overall, we need to encourage people to shop local and buy in Grimes whenever possible.
What can the city of Grimes do to support our communities? Like Brian said, shop local. We brought in all the big box stores and everything we got going out there. We got to think about the small businesses. All right, support the small businesses. Both of my kids work for small businesses in town. I own a small business, and small business is what built Grimes. Don't forget that. Okay, small business owners that do business, that have businesses here in Grimes, are Grimes residents. So, we're talking about supporting our community's businesses, and I just don't want people to forget the small businesses, okay? Yeah, I'm all for supporting all our businesses. Obviously, it's revenue back here to Grimes. I get that. But you can't forget the small businesses we need to support, okay? By supporting those small businesses, that's what creates the jobs. The small businesses that my kids work at, a lot of young kids work there. They love it. They're treated well. They love the small town that they work in. They want to stay away from the big box stores. So again, I agree we need to support all our businesses, but don't forget your small businesses. Small businesses have built many communities. Small businesses built Grimes. We owe it to the small businesses to carry them with us as we grow.
I love to hear that. I also am very supportive of small businesses. It's a little disheartening. We lost 2 really great businesses right out here this year. And I would like to see more opportunity and support for other local and small businesses to come to Grimes. And so in addition to supporting them, how can the city help with that? I realize that there are some limitations with what the city can do, but what can we do to support? There's opportunities, I think, to partner with the Des Moines Partnership. They have some small business resources. Can we connect people? I love connecting people. I'm all about it. So how do we do that? Additionally, I think something that is important is DART. I think that while, yes, we want people that work here to live here, I think we have to assume that there's going to be people that do not live here. And we can't assume that everyone can get here with their own vehicle or have their own vehicle. At the end of last year, I was a little surprised and nervous when I saw that there was the potential that Grimes was going to get rid of the DART line here. Very happy to see that the council decided they didn't have enough information and they wanted to, and not enough time to make that decision. Went to a meeting last night with Dara at our library, learned that ridership has increased, so obviously COVID maybe had an issue, had a factor in that. And we have a new service here. So we have an on-call service, and then there's an express route. So making sure that we have resources for people to get to Grimes, to leave Grimes as well. I think that's something that we need to continue to monitor and work with DART on.
Yeah, I think with respect to the businesses, we're going to continue to see the attention on Grimes as business owners consider where they're going to place their business and what communities they're going to come to. Grimes is going to continue to rise on that list, as opposed to the other our neighbors and surrounding suburbs. From a city perspective, how can we be a conduit for that and offer transparency to those businesses that are making those decisions and evaluating where to go? Are they getting information from the city in a timely manner? Are they getting the things that they need, from a development perspective and resources and access to incentive programs to come to Grimes? Do we have the infrastructure that they need and require for their patrons to get in and out of their facilities in a convenient way? Because that's certainly for a retail business that's traffic oriented. Do we have access to their businesses in simple ways to get in and out of it? Communication is always going to be huge and a priority there, and that's what a city can establish is thorough transparent and open communication for those businesses. And then I love what someone else said with engagement with civic organizations. I think honestly, those are the things that foundations are built on. Are civic organizations a part of the growth? Are people able to volunteer and be active in the community in these civic organizations? Are we being able to be that conduit and have a robust platform for people to get engaged at all levels from that standpoint?
I think if we're trying to attract these kinds of restaurants and even sort of entertainment ideas, one of the questions I have is, could I learn from some of the other cities around us of what they've done? So are we learning from the city of Ankeny? What would they do and what wouldn't they do? Can we talk to Waukee? What have they done that they've liked? What would they change? Because someday somebody's going to come to us and say, Grimes, you're where we were 10 years ago. Help us learn from what you've learned. And so I'm a landlord. We've owned a senior 8-plex for 10 years. So I'm a landlord, and I also own my own business out of my home, and so I can appreciate the dynamics of those things. And if we're attracting business, I would like to know from that larger scheme of things, where are we putting it in the city? What kind of development? I mean, how many hours and years did it take to develop the Prairie Trail for Ankeny? And I will say, I love that place. It's a fantastic place. I love it that we have this in Des Moines. I love going downtown Des Moines. I love walking in my city. I'm a runner, and I run up and down the streets all the time. I can tell you where the trails end, and it's annoying, right? So I love all of these things, but I wonder, big picture, where are we developing? If somebody wants to come here, where are they going to go? And I think that's also an important question to answer.
Yeah, in terms of policy, as a question kind of stated there are a couple things I think the city can do and that we are doing. But I am excited to hear so many people talk about affordable housing up here, and I'm going to try to hold you to that, because one of the ways we do that policy-wise is have serious conversations about zoning. And we have not done that yet. And that's a conversation we need to have. So if I get reelected, I want to hold my colleagues to having that conversation. But the other thing the city can do in terms of policy is, we've talked about it, is those amenities. So Brian preaches this a lot. We have the businesses here, but if you want the workers and you want people to come and have our city be a greater city, you got to give them a reason to stay here and play here and grow here, right? And so those amenities are part of that. And so I'm super pleased. Hopefully we're going to break ground in the library this spring. That's a great amenity. I know a mom out there that got her master's degree out of the unheated, unair-conditioned meeting room in our library, because that's why we need a new library. But that's the only one we have. We get a nice, bigger library. We're going to have more meeting rooms. We can have more moms and dads do that for their families and then live here, grow here, right? We add more parks. I'm really excited about the work that Brian Berger, our new director of Parks and Recs, is doing, growing those programs, giving people a reason to live here, play here, right? We just actually had a strategic planning session as a council and city staff this last week, dedicated a lot of time to that process. And we talked about Wallace Farms just to the south of here. And so we have some good plans for that, and I'm really excited about that. And one of the benefits of what we hope to do is revamp that a little bit and pull people through the downtown to have events at Wallace Farm and bolster some of these businesses on Main Street. So we are thinking about it, and those are some of the policy things we can do, and I hope we continue to do.
Well, thank you. I got to stop and say a couple things real quick. We're going to do one more round of questions. Then I'm going to ask Kayla to bring up the questions that they've sorted through at the back of the room. But I just want to give a shout out. Twice now I heard candidates talk about they read my article and they heard me say something. I don't think anybody ever listens to me, but evidently I'm mistaken about that. So thank you for that. So communication is important, and this is going to be our next question. Alan, I'm going to start with you on this one, okay? So prepare yourself. Good communication is generally recognized as an important factor in any healthy relationship. I know this. My wife is a social worker, and she espouses the benefits of that all the time. What can you, as an individual, or the city as an institution, do to ensure that citizens businesses, and other stakeholders have the opportunity to be informed on matters of local governance.
Thank you. I think some of the things that are important for that are really taking a look at what resources we have available right now. And if you remember, we have this little article that comes up that says Living Weekly, which is a weekly publication that's done by the big green umbrella media, and some of you people know who those guys are. I talked to Shane Goodman, who is the editor and general manager for this whole operation, this past week, and he said they would love to be able to have this where it is something that would be more available to everyone. They do have it available where you can just hand it out, but they have electronic versions of it as well. But I think those are some communication tools that could be used. It's got some interesting photography in it, monades and things of that nature as well. But I think some of the other things that are available is really just taking a look at the city's communication. And I know we get the little informational thing in the water bill, but sometimes it appears that perhaps we could have a better electronic communication with our own residents. And in doing that, that would be a way to get them something. If there's a bulletin coming out, I know you can sign up for that through the sheriff's office and that sort of thing. But some people who move here have no idea those things. So that first education piece is something that needs to be done very readily by real estate agents and those folks who are telling those people to come here and live. So I think there's opportunities available to do that. I think the other opportunities, quite honestly, are just communication in-house within the staff, within members of the mayor and council, and being able to get that out to the public. It's curious that we had a discussion like this kind of at the last council meeting, but there was not a very good communication. And honestly, since I've been here, we've been here about a year and a half, I found out information. I've got a stack of multiple things, got a stack of 2 inches of stuff from the library to find out what they do. But if you don't research that yourself, you're never going to know. So it needs to be made available where people know how to get it and how to find that. Thanks.
A couple things I've seen that have been nice on the communications area. For instance, David Gish's blog, gishsource.com, G-I-S-C-H, source.com, has been good at translating bureaucratese and legalese into human, non-nerdy, that kind of stuff, even though it does get a little bit nerdy, a little bit with some of your numbers in there. Fantastic source, but we need to be doing that internally, not just having one person do it. And I found out, and I guess it's okay to go ahead and bring it up, that current city council, through some of the planning stuff and everything over the last couple of weeks, we've instructed Jake Anderson, our city administrator, to pursue hiring a communications director exactly for that reason. Right now, yeah, it gets out through other sources, all the stuff's on the web pages, and you have to know where to find it, where to get it. Well, we're looking at and we're going forward with hiring a communications director. That's something we need, like the professionalism we're doing in all the other areas over the last 4 years of making this into more than a small town that slowly grew, and an administrator that kind of grew with the town, and a mayor that was reelected 3 times and was great for a small businessman, Mayor Tom, and grew with it. Well, we brought in people, we brought in professionals, and we're doing this right. A couple of things I'd like to see done: streaming of city council meetings, and transparency. Continue interaction on those wonderful Facebook groups. There's a lot of you that found out about this probably through that. It's a fun place to be, let's call it that. But a lot of cool ideas come up there. They come up there, but they don't come up to the city. They don't bring the ideas to that, so it takes people bring their great ideas and complaints and positives and negatives, rants and raves to the city council members so it can be discussed. Bring it to the city. Bring it to them firsthand. Let's not have to translate through somebody else.
Well, I'm going to use my full 2 minutes, and I was trying to follow your agenda here with just the questions. I'm going to get it all out here now. So, the communication, obvious. I've said it to a lot of people. A lot of people don't agree with it, but transparency. Okay, I understand things are public, things are out there. Okay, just do your research. I think we need to go ahead and adjust these things to where we're letting the residents know what we're doing, okay? Yeah, residents, like Ryan said, a lot of these forums are put together, meetings are put together, and a lot of people don't show up. This crowd is awesome. I mean, awesome crowd. I mean, it really is. But I've been to city council meetings where there's been the city council and 2 people, It's use the things you have to use your voice. One thing I want to jump on and say about is the fire department as well. You know, library, I get it. I'm not against the library. I'll tell you honestly, I'm against the way it was prioritized, okay? Our fire department is a 50-year-old building that was built for a volunteer fire station. Our fire station, out of the 3 fire stations that are in Grimes-Johnson, is the only one that's not fully manned. Every other fire station has an engine and an ambulance, all right? You know, a library is great. I think we got a great library that maybe could have just used some updates, and I get it. I'm more of a municipal building person, okay? Let's put a library, city hall, fire station. Let's take care of it. Let's not spend millions and millions of dollars on different projects. Let's knock it out when we can. And I'm over my time. I apologize. First time. Oh, I'm good still. Oh, 30 seconds. You know, what are the priorities? Let's ask the people what the priorities should be. Not what the council, not what boards need, all right? My personal opinion, that fire station needs to be top. Before a splash pad, before a library. I'm not saying I'm against those, but what I'm saying is, one of our guys, you know, they sleep in trailers back there, right? They don't even sleep in the fire station. They run out of that trailer, they slip on those steps, they fall, they get hurt. That fire station doesn't respond. There's another 8 minutes before Johnson gets here to what Grimes should be taken care of. Let's support Grimes. Let's make Grimes just as safe. Oh, time's up, sorry. Just as safe as Johnson. So that's huge. Fire department, fire department, fire department. Not against girls, but we need a fire department.
I'm excited about this question. I work in marketing and communications, so this is right up my alley. I do it all day, every day. I've talked a lot about communication with a lot of the city staff, with a lot of the council, with a lot of residents. I think that everybody's on the same page that there needs to be better communication. But how do we do that? So there's a lot of different options, but I think what we need to do as a city is we need to look at our residents and find what is the best plan for getting out our communication to our residents. As we know, social media is pretty big. Love it or hate it, it's there, and that's where people go. So do we keep kind of just responding to things on some of the pages that are out there, or let's make an avenue for the right communication to get out from the city? I'm very pleased to hear that there is going to be a communications manager. I think that that's key, and so that there can be a plan put in place. But there's a lot of different channels to use, so it doesn't have to all be social media. There's text message options, there's emails, there's the website. I think we all know maybe could use a little updating. The water bill, people probably read that. I don't, but I should. But I think that we need to make sure we're reaching as many people as possible, and that's, like I said, that's what I do all day, every day. How do we get in front of the people, find them where they are, get them the information? They elect us to give them the information that they need. Give you guys the information that you need, so you aren't searching and having to research. You've elected people to do that and then make decisions on your behalf. And open up the channels of communication. And let's put a face to our city staff and a face to our council and our mayor. I think that that's going to make them more relatable, make hopefully us more relatable, and more open lines of communication. If you know who we are, if you know what our faces look like, and that just is something that grows our community as well. And I think that takes us full circle to everybody saying we want a strong community. So I think communication is the foundation of our strong community.
Thank you. I think, with respect to communication, the website has to be dealt with. I think that can solve a lot of issues with respect to letting people know who we are, who to get in contact if you have a specific problem or issue with whatever you might be dealing with in your home, business, or surroundings. So a priority for me with respect to communication would just be to bolster that website and make it comprehensive and easy to navigate, easy to find what you need to find, who you need to contact, and be a conduit for open communication, because it goes both ways, city to the people, people to city, and I think a lot of that can be solved with a very good website.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think having an online piece that when you click on something, it answers my question, that it doesn't land someplace like page 404 error. I just think simple things like that are great, and I know I love that there is a communications director coming. I think that's fantastic, and even people like most of us in the room, we're all neighbors and citizens of our community. I need something in plain speak, like, oh, the corner of James Street and First Street, this is going in, or something like that. Like, basically what I want to know is, what's going on that pile of dirt over there? I wonder what's going on right there. I would just want to go to a spot where I can find out what's going on that pile of dirt. That's pretty much what I want to know. And I've talked to people, and that's kind of what many people want to know, is what's going to be put on that pile of dirt. And so I think that's some of the way we can communicate in really simple, plain speak ways, but the transparency also that comes out is connected to that answer of what's going on the pile of dirt is the details behind it, right? So if you want to know all the details and what happens, then that also could be attached to something like that. But I also think maybe at a public space, I love it that here in the community center you also can see some of the city plan. I like looking at pictures and visuals, like where can I go? Can I go to the library? Can I go here? Are there places in town where we can go actually see that information? I think would be helpful as well for people who don't want to be online. So I think that also is really important. And I do appreciate the water bill communication, whoever does that.
Yeah, first thing I want to say in terms of communication is I think there's a misnomer out there that city council members don't want to talk to you. My wife would tell you that's not true. I took a call at 8:30 on Saturday night for 40 minutes. Okay? I know a lot of the other people currently on council would do the same thing. They'll talk to you if you call them. They'll talk to you if you email them. I had a resident recently reach out to me. Within 10 minutes, we had a meeting scheduled together, right? So we're willing to listen. We're willing to hear you. We want to listen. We want to hear you. So I just really want that to be known about communication in terms of the council side of things. Okay, so please reach out to us, talk to us. But then, yes, we are going to hire a communications person, hopefully sooner than later. We're trying to investigate if we can do that within this fiscal year. If not, definitely the next fiscal year. Yeah, the website could use some improvement, but this goes back to what some of us have alluded about with professional staff. We hired a new IT person who has several years of experience, only been on the job for 2 weeks though. But that IT person now has the professional eyes to give us an honest look and answer about how do we fix our website. You get that communications person hired, they can also get the eyes on it. Then we can get the absolute best opinion on how to tackle it properly, and not do it and then find out 2 years later we wasted money and did it wrong, right? We want to do it and do it right with the money you guys have. We want to be responsible with your money. And so it just takes time to get a lot of these pieces in. But I do own the criticism that we didn't do this sooner. We've done a lot, and it's just, these things take time. But I appreciate people's patience, and I'm glad that we're tackling it now.
Well, I was told the website will be ready before November 2nd. I don't know. No, listen, in all seriousness. It's a lot of the same things that we've been talking about. I support the hiring of a full-time communications person. That makes a lot of sense. Most communities our size have it. As a city, another thing, it keeps coming back to the website, but one interesting thing we did do, so elected officials get staff memos, and so does the city administrator, and everything that we get during the last 4 years, it used to be just agendas would be posted. We post it all, the whole thing. I think it's so hard to find on the current website, no one even knows it's there. But so the website definitely is going to help things. And then I think just as an individual, as an elected official or someone who aspires to be one, it's just promoting civil discourse among people based on facts. we got to lead by example, and I think that's an important piece of the communication that needs to happen in the community.
Well, thank you all. I'm going to try something. I'm going to need your cooperation in order to do this. Kayla was kind enough to bring up some questions from the back of the room here, but honestly, we're not going to get to hardly any of them unless I can kind of ask you guys to really expedite your answers. So we'll call this the rapid fire round, and there's some tough questions, so it might be a little difficult, but I'd ask you just to answer as briefly as you can and still get your message across. So, Mr. Berger, I think you're the one to start this one. The council has lowered the tax rate, but what do you plan to do about sewer and water rates increasing?
Oh, I get to go with that one first. Great. Throw it out there. Everybody else think about your answers while I try to improv here.
Use your mic.
That would be good. I don't have a good answer for that. I'm very sorry. They're gonna go up. You expect that they're going just out of the nature of what it is. We want the water that we are not having right now. We want things to improve, and the rates are going to go up to accomplish that. Just inflation says it's going to go up with stuff. I remember when I first moved to town, they had just gone through a big water rate increase, and people weren't happy about it. But I think it's just a fact of life. Sorry.
Yeah, just
20 seconds, 30 seconds.
yeah.
Going all the way around.
You don't have to answer. If you don't have anything to add to it, you can just roll by.
Can repeat the question one more time?
Okay. The question was, the council has lowered the tax rate, but what do you plan to do about sewer and water rates increasing?
I'm going to give I hope it doesn't bite me, but I'm going to give you a real answer. Okay, I've been asked, that's got to do with some of the infrastructure, obviously. I've been asked about the lowering the taxes, this and that. Okay. My perception is the taxes, I'm sorry, but I believe truly that they are going to go lower within the next year or two. We can sit up here, we can say we're going to lower taxes, lower taxes, lower taxes. Our infrastructure is so far behind that we've got to come back up online. Now, I'd love to lower taxes, okay, but that's where we're at. We're going to pay for the water. Right now, we've got ourselves a hole. We've got to pay for water for treatment facility, clean water, and so on. Sewage, we don't have it. It's going to be, we've got to pay for it. So the real answer is, I don't think anything can be done about it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like I also don't have an answer that you probably want to hear, but that's kind of along similar lines that I think when I hear about lowering taxes as well. Our water rate has to increase. So we're getting this money from somewhere. So we're going to have to balance this out, whether it's taxes, water, wherever, but the fact of the matter is we have some projects that have to be done. There are certain things that are regulations that have to be done. Goes back to some staffing, like we have to staff at certain levels for our Polk County Sheriff, for our fire department. Regulations had to be done for our sewer and our water. So while it sounds great to say lowering taxes, and I am not here for raising them, please know that, I think that we have some things that have to be done, and unfortunately they cost money, and so I think we have to figure out how to get those paid for. So yeah, I don't know that I added a different answer, but there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, coming from the outside and not being involved with conversations specific to water and how that gets funded, nothing really to add other than with our current setup and the things, don't know what the path forward is, but if elected, definitely going to be something to be looked at and figure out how that works and how that's all done, and willing to learn for sure.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add.
I like the short answers.
I'll say when we entered 4 years, and I say we because Ryan and the mayor and I, that's when we first started our term. These decisions had not been made and they'd been delayed, and that was extremely unfortunate. But we made those tough decisions, and the decisions we made were long-term decisions, good for the benefit of our community for the long term, not just quick band-aids, so we have this problem again. So people don't like the smell, they don't like this, they don't like that. The decisions we made will hopefully fix all that, and for a long time. And so, yeah, the water rates are going to go up because water rates pay for water. That's how it works, okay? So, can't unfortunately do anything, but the positive side of it is it's going to be fixed, and it's going to be fixed long term.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to add on this. I mean, I think the question is how closely can you manage it? And so you look at that, you look at what you can finance it with and what's available to you, which there is quite a bit of financing for it. And you try to keep it as low as possible for residents, and that's what I'll tell you I'm going to advocate for.
I think probably one of the things is that when you have rates for city services, it increases just because that's the way the world is. But I think we need to take a look at really what the city tax levy was, and from 2015 to 2020, it was about 12.8, 12.9 per thousand rate. This year it's gone down to 11.7. The difference is, however, that the assessed value of the property that we have that's being taxed went from 921 million to 971 million. So we still achieved the same financial funding because the assessment was higher. I remember, did you get a assessment higher than you did this last year? I think we all did. So because that went up, the city was able to actually reduce the tax rate, but that is only because that went up. So it's kind of a smoke and mirrors example of what happens. It's the same thing what you're going to see with the water rate. It's going to go up, but the question is, how high is it going to go up? And that's what you need to understand.
All right, we're going to try and get one more question in here, and then after the question, we're going to go to closing remarks, just so the folks up here know. I think, Joe Herman, you're going to start on this question. How do you feel about the shared services, for example, Polk County Sheriff's and the Fire Department, for example?
I actually think it's a great idea. A lot of people don't realize the Polk County Sheriff, you know, that's a good deal, the deal we've got with them. You know, you're talking millions and millions of dollars to get our own police department. You're talking the manpower, you're talking equipment, you're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars. I believe Polk County Sheriff's and the City of Grimes just signed another 10-year, or getting ready to sign another 10-year agreement, and they take care of it. You know, they provide the police officers. If there's vacation time, there's anything like that, they provide the staff. Now, I know I had a conversation with the sheriff at one of the events. As we grow, they are going to go ahead and add more patrols and so on. But I think the police is a great deal right now. It really is. You know, fire department, it's a saving grace that we're with Johnson right now. I mean, if you know what I mean. If not, what would we do? We'd have to go ahead and staff that fire department, right? We'd have to go ahead and build a new fire department. So I think it's a great team, and I think I agree. If it's something we could do to keep going for a lot of years, I think it's more advantageous for both, financially and for the safety of Grimes and Johnson.
I would echo a lot of what Joe just said. One of the other things that I've learned about Polk County Sheriff's Office that we get is additional services that we may not be able to have if we had our own police force. So detectives, crime units, cyber, things like that. So there's a lot more resources available to us as a city. That was certainly an initial question of mine. Why don't we have our own police station? I think it's a natural question for a lot of people. I agree. I think we have a great partnership there, and it saves us a lot of money and gives us the coverage that we need and then some. I could talk a really long time about the fire department and our contract with Johnston and Grimes. I know we're trying to be quick, so let me know if anyone wants to hear more, but I've spoken with them a lot. I've worked with the fire department a lot, and they love the partnership between Johnston and Grimes. They do not want that to go away. They want that to be permanent. I think there's a lot of benefit for us as a city that way as well, with shared costs, increasing resources that we don't have to take on all ourselves.
Yep, I think it's a beautiful relationship and mutually beneficial that we have with Polk County with respect to the Sheriff's Department for all the reasons and then some. My wife's on the board for public health and safety, so I get a lot of that, which I think the average person doesn't understand, and I think that gets back to communication as well for a lot of our citizens. And just, you know, are they aware of how great of a partnership that is for us and for Polk County sheriffs as well. And then with respect to the fire department, again, until things get to a point where, you know, statistically we need to be on our own with something like that, you know, why not have a partnership like that and continue to benefit with those relationships. So yeah, I think those are fantastic.
Yeah, yesterday I had the opportunity to talk with Travis, and I think he is I don't know exactly what his title is, but we had a great conversation. I'm the daughter of a fireman and a policeman, so my dad did both. And my dad got burned really bad in a fire, so I have a special place in my heart for firefighters, and I was part of a fire family. So I really can appreciate Public Works and where we're at with that, and the challenges I think too that can come with a shared resource of management can be very challenging to work through. I think our Public Works people have enough challenges out there, so I would love to see our relationships together be really solid so we can really take on the obstacles that need to be taken on with strength that can come from our communities doing some things together. So I think there are some things we need to continue to work on. I do think, when I talked to Travis yesterday, he is in favor of that relationship, to continue to see that grow, to continue to see Grimes, come to the table in really good ways, and really let that relationship be better maybe in the future than it is now. I think what Scott even said about, the school board many years ago, or not the school board, but the school with the city wasn't great. Perhaps because of the changes with Grimes and Johnston in the past years, there's been some really difficult things, and maybe that's a relationship now that can be worked on more if it is not in the place that it needs to be, because we definitely need our Public Works people. I do not want to be in the paper. I don't want to realize how badly I need them because 5 houses on my street burned down, right? They don't want that either, and so I really appreciate and I hope we can equip them and continue to champion their cause and as we work together. And I would really miss the pancake breakfast. I don't really know what happened to that, but I was a fan. COVID, oh yes, COVID, okay.
Yeah, somebody mentioned a blog somebody wrote. Yeah, I have one of those. I wrote an article about this issue, and so I guess I'll just say, go read that. I don't have any web ads or anything either, so you're safe. But I think both relationships are really good relationships. Actually, I serve on the Metro Waste Authority, and that involves city council members from all over the metro. And a lot of times we talk about it and they say, man, I wish we had the Polk County thing you guys have. Because it's such a great service and you get so much for your dollar on that. And so other communities are actually jealous of what we get for our service for the dollar we spend. And so I think it's a fantastic deal in Polk County. I think the fire department does great. We're doing a study about that and see how we can take that forward and just continue to improve that.
Yeah, both relationships have provided a lot of value for the residents here, and Polk County Sheriff's that partnership's been great. Our Johnston Grimes fire relationship partnership's been good. It's made a lot of sense where we are as a community. Now I'll say one thing: we do need to pay attention to where we're headed with growth, though. So we need to think, and I'm personally an advocate for saying we might need our own fire department at some point. And we're looking at that right now. I don't think that we should be ashamed to say that with the growth we've been talking about. And I think that's a great thing. But these have been two really good relationships for Grimes right now.
I think from a standpoint of public protection, public safety, I met with the sheriff and the fire chief, and one of the things about that is really to be able to allow them to each individually do what they do best. And I think the regional cooperation that we have through the fire services is one that's an important one, because it provides for an economy of scale where we're not having to pay as much as probably we would otherwise. And by using the sheriff's office, we also have a cost savings for that budget standpoint. I would just note one thing that had been mentioned as far as the consideration for a fire station. I understand from the fire chief that in 2019, fire station was identified, proposed to the city at a cost of about $7 million, but nothing's happened since then. So I guess I go back to the same thing that we've seen of sewers. They've been known about this for years and years, but what happens? So there needs to be leadership to see those things take place.
Just real quickly, I serve on the same committee that Nick's wife serves on with the Public Health and Safety Committee, and I've learned a ton. I also learned a ton by spending an afternoon and a little bit of an early evening riding along with one of the officers that's on the Grimes Patrol. Those guys keep busy. There's no doubt about that. So, real big fan of both relationships.
All right, so congratulations, you guys made it through the rapid fire and the regular questions. And we're going to go into closing statements now. And just it so happens to work out that everybody gets to go first once tonight. So Laurie, if you could start us with your closing statements, whatever you'd like to say, a couple minutes.
Thank you all for being here. It is amazing to see so many people here. It's amazing to interact with so many people on social media, to set up meetings. I hope that that continues. Thank you for hosting this. I love Grimes. I want to see us grow into a unique city that has a mix of the metro amenities but keeps our really strong community. I absolutely loved the Fall Festival. That to me is what it's all about. How do we keep doing that? I want to do one for every season, so if you need help, let me know. I just think that that's what's going to keep us strong. As much as we grow, we need to keep seeing each other, we need to keep supporting each other and being around each other. I also want to make sure we're finding space and support for local businesses. We talked a little bit about that earlier. Let's attract people that want to visit here as well as live here, and keep the people that are here wanting to stay here and able to stay here. I want to open the doors to our city for all people and be accessible for all people, inviting to all people, and I think we do that together. So I appreciate everybody here. Please get in contact if you have any more things that you want to talk about or hear more from me. And I would love your vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for everybody coming out and being here. This really has been a stretching experience for me the past few months, being able to get out in this community, which I love and it really, truly cherish to be a part of, and meet so many folks. It's energizing seeing people face to face and having human interactions with people again. And I think, with respect to that, I want to be present if elected on November 2nd, which I really would appreciate your vote. Understand that being present, being available, being accountable for the decisions that we make, and having thoughtful, long-term visions in place for everybody that calls this place home or that visits for an afternoon or a weekend, that they feel comfortable and confident in the place that they call home or they visit. So, Grimes is fantastic. It's awesome. You can tag that. I don't really care. It's out there. So, let's just keep doing that stuff. So, really appreciate everybody's time and willingness to be here. It's fantastic, and thanks for allowing me to be on this stage with all these great people. I think this city's in good hands. There's people in this community that care about it. So, thank you so much.
Yeah, as I've gotten to know more people in Grimes through doing this, I spent just a wee bit of time online, and that's all it took. And really the anecdote for that kind of feeling that wasn't necessarily positive about, rants and raves or whatever people want to do, the anecdote to that really is going face to face and talking to people. Do you know how many fantastic people live in this city? It is awesome. And we have conversations, and then you know what, I'm talking to them and like their sister went to Wartburg with my husband or something, right? Like we all have these connections and we have these people, and if they're not from Iowa, that's okay, they're welcome here too. And so I just have loved the process. I think every citizen should have to run for public office because it is a learning experience. And I think that's what I bring to the table is I'm a learner. And I might not have the most experience of city planning and lowering taxes and what the levies are, but I am a learner. And I am hungry. And I have an appetite for growth, and I really want to see us do great things together. I don't even see these people as my competition. They're my neighbors, for Pete's sake, right? We live here. And now I get to know them, and guess what? When I run into you at, Poncheros, we're going to say hi, right? And so I'm a neighbor first. And I did talk to one person who was a little disgruntled about a fireworks thing here for our city. And I just said, well, have you talked to your neighbor? No! And I'm like, that's what I want. Grimes, talk to our neighbors. Know your neighbors. That, no matter how big our town gets, if we can be neighbors, our city is going to keep being great.
Yeah, I guess my closing statements would be, I just really try to play to my strengths. I'm a math professor at DMAC. I'm a nerd. I like the puzzle of the government. I like the nuances. I like to dive into it. I like to spend a lot of time. I've done a lot of homework, and I'm going to continue to do a lot of homework to try to make good decisions for our city and for our citizens. And so that's just really what I'm about. I have no agenda or anything else. I just want to see the best things happen that can happen for our city with the resources we have. And I'm going to put the time in to do it. And the people that know me, if you talk to people that know me, they'll testify to that. And so I hope you guys see that, and I hope you guys believe that too. But that's what I do, and that's what I want to continue to do.
Well, first, thank you all for attending, because it does make this experience a lot more enjoyable to be interacting with you guys. And thanks for the chamber for putting this on, and candidates, well done. It takes a fair amount of courage to do this, so thanks to everybody who's participated. To the Grimes residents, it has been my honor to serve you for the last 4 years. And when I speak to Grimes residents, they're excited about the future. We've got a great future. Our opportunities are way better than the challenges we face. And so I'm asking for you to support me and for your vote on November 2nd, because I want to continue to focus on these priority areas: infrastructure, reducing taxes, and quality of life amenities. Thank you.
One of the things that I think is important about this is that you took the time to come here, and I applaud each one of you for doing that, because it's important for you to learn and understand what goes on in city government. I've been able to be involved in city government in a couple decades because I've had city positions. So I know how it works both from that side and from the public side to be able to bring that discussion forward. I would applaud what has been done in the past, but I think there is a lot that can be done in the future. And I think that's the greatest part about the city of Grimes, and you can use that if you want to. But I think those are great things that need to happen and occur, but they need to be done in a thoughtful, planning manner. And sometimes what I've found out by walking around my neighborhood and other neighborhoods in the city, there's questions about things. We've all heard about the smells and the whole problems with that, and about the person who said they were going to think about buying a house here, but then they had that and they're not sure about it. So we want to tackle those things and solve that, because if that reputation gets out, that's not going to be any good for the city. I think the biggest part of it is being able to understand what the needs are and what the wants are, but also be able to budget for it, identify a capital improvements program to play for those priorities. And for me, sewer, streets, waters, public safety are the number one. And doing that, I think it's a really important piece to be able to get those things done. One thing I just would mention to Scott is that I think you might want to change your Facebook page to say that you actually do live in Des Moines. It'd be good that the mayor lives in Des Moines, recognize that. So I think that's an important piece of it. And the other part that's very easy to remember is my last name's May, so it's May for mayor. Thanks very much.
Keep it very simple. In my 20 years in Grimes, I've learned to love this town. Absolutely love it. Ran a small business in town for a long time. Now I'm a teacher and I enjoy it. I love that. I love serving over the last 4 years, and I'm asking you for 4 more years. Re-elect Ryan Berger for City Council November 2nd. And to put in the modern sense for those millennials, #LoveGrimes.
I'm the last one. Are you still going to keep time? Okay. Let me tell you something real quick. Let me tell you why I came to Grimes. We're looking for a home. Like I said, in the military, we're looking for a home. We came to Grimes. It was movie on Main Street night. Okay. Anybody remember those movies on Main Street? Okay. That's what brought us here, the small town. Okay. Growth isn't bad as long as it's done at the moderate pace to where your infrastructure can hold it. So, I stand for Main Street. The Main Street should be beautiful. Grimes should still keep the small town feel. We just need to control our growth. I don't want to lose, like a couple people have said, the small town community involvement with the people. As we grow bigger and bigger and bigger, you lose contact with people. It gets bigger, this and that. We love Grimes. We came to Grimes because of the way it was. we understand growth brings in revenue, okay, but also growth brings in expense, okay. As we grow, maintenance costs go up, roads, sewage, water, everything. So we just need to balance that as we grow, okay. We love Grimes. I lived all over the country. Getting ready to retire after 30 years in the military, I could have lived anywhere I wanted. We picked Grimes because of what Grimes, the small town community. So I'm for growth, controlled growth, but I love the way Grimes sticks together as a community in a small town feel. Joe Herman, hopefully you vote for me November 2nd. I'm not a yes man, but I do work well with others.
Well, to the candidates, thank you again for participating in this evening's event. Let's give them a round of applause. We're going to wrap this up with just a couple of closing statements. Thank you again to everybody who was able to come out here this evening and be a part of this. Share what you heard here today with other voters in Grimes and help them become more educated too. I want to speak to responsibility a little bit. I think that whether you're a candidate on this stage, whether you work for Grimes Chamber and Economic Development, or you're a citizen of Grimes, we have a responsibility to educate ourselves, to know what's going on around here to the best of our ability. So please take time to do that and engage in good, cordial discussion like I think we heard here tonight. I work for Grimes Chamber and Economic Development, so I would be remiss if I didn't tell you to consider spending your dollar locally. We have wonderful businesses in Grimes, and there's more every day coming to town. So please, make it intentional when you decide where to invest your dollars. Put it back into your community, because it's more likely to come back to you in spades than if you leave town with it. And that's not always possible, we know, and there's a lot of decisions that have to be made, but there's good options in Grimes. Go to grimesiowa.com, look at our chamber membership if you need ideas on where to help you do that here locally, or call our office. Our staff would be happy to help you. Our board of directors is always approachable as well. Finally, about this evening's event. We've been recording it. We've got a camera right here in the front of the room, and we will be posting that on the Grimes Chamber and Economic Development YouTube channel, which you may or may not know exists. So go to that YouTube channel, find it on there, subscribe, like, what are all the things I'm supposed to say about a YouTube channel? And while you're there, since you already watched this live, you can see the other videos that we put out and maybe learn a little bit more about the community that you're so lucky to reside in. That's all we have for tonight. Thanks again to everybody for coming out, and have a great evening.